Coloradans, largely left to fend for themselves in finding a COVID vaccine, now find help from kind people willing to work the system for their benefit. The state's pandemic trends keep moving in the right direction as we closely watch cases of several variants. Last call for your vaccine questions we'll take directly to the governor in a live town hall tomorrow. Shifting political power and representation in Colorado. It's the biggest story we aren't talking about often, so let's dig into redistricting tonight. And a little girl used to look up to Miss Peaches. Now she looks over at her colleague. One teacher's legacy, next. So you got this Hunger Games style scramble for vaccines in Colorado right now. People 70 and older searching for here and there, anywhere to find a dose before the state opens the floodgates to even more new groups 1 week from today. Frustration is compounded for people who are not that comfortable with technology, except for those who have found the vaccine whisperer. Here's Steve Steger.
We tried to go on this site and we tried to do all kinds of stuff and we were getting nowhere.
Linda Velasquez was having no luck finding an appointment. Same story for Karen Peterson's parents.
For an 89-year-old and a 92-year-old, managing through that Colorado website was awful.
But word of mouth can be a magical thing. Both of their stories somehow found their way to Sarah Gomez Marwitz.
I've now named her the vaccine whisperer because she is the only person that I know that has been able to help.
It started one night when I couldn't sleep and I found an appointment for one of my parents.
For the last few weeks, Sarah has been helping any senior who reaches out through friends or friends of friends or Facebook friends.
I get their basic information that these online appointments are asking for. And then if I see something at a Safeway or King Soopers, sometimes Thornton Fire Department, then I can just enter in their information and tell them that they have an appointment.
She's become something of an internet sleuth, stalking appointment websites.
How many people have you helped so far?
I was trying to figure that out this morning and I don't know. It's at least dozens now.
Hours of work asking for nothing in return.
Why not help? It's our community. Everybody in our community means something.
I don't know how she does it.
Though the people Sarah's helped are complete strangers, they will never forget her.
She just has a really good heart and she wanted to help people.
She's just a lifesaver and, and I mean, literally, she could be a lifesaver for my parents.
So here's how she might do it. Sarah used to be a ticket seller for the Rockies, so she knows a thing or two about online lotteries on opening day. So she hopes that she might inspire some other people to do things like this, Kyle, just by seeing that she's doing it. In fact, there are a few other people, she says, in internet forums who have started to do this for other seniors in their communities just to try to help them out, because a lot of folks may not be, like you said, comfortable with the technology, and it's tough to navigate.
At the start of your story, Steve, I found it heartwarming, and by the end, I found it infuriating. Like, this is what we are leaving elder Coloradans up against. This idea of, like, can you find some angel to help you on the internet get a vaccine? Like, surely Colorado's plan for vaccinating the rest of 70 plus can't be like, Sarah, like Sarah's going to do it. And all of a sudden, in a week, we're going to open up the vaccines to even more people, so everybody's going to be swimming in an even larger sea trying to get through. I'm sorry, there was not a question in there. I just found that infuriating.
Yeah, well,
that, like, this wonderful woman, that's what it's come to. I don't know.
The one thing that I have heard over and over and over from people is this common refrain of, why don't we have a centralized system where people can go and sign up for something and then be directed to where they need to go? Just one place instead of a website with hundreds of other websites on it and suggestions of places where people could go. We've asked the state a few times. It seems like it might be a little late in the game to try something like that, but that seems to be the main frustration so many people have.
We'll ask the governor again tomorrow night live on 9 News. Steve, thank you. 8% of Colorado's population has now received the first dose of COVID-19 vaccine. That is 464,000 people. A little more than 132,000 of those people have their second shot at this point. Most of us are still there in the blue, folks who have not gotten shots. As I mentioned, tomorrow night, join me for a live town hall on 9 News as we take your vaccine questions directly to Democratic Governor Jared Polis and the state's public health leaders. If you would like to get in to ask a question, there is still time. We're collecting these questions via video, so you can email your video to yourtake@9news.com, or you can upload them on the 9 News app. Just you, quick ask a question, boom, done. Our vaccination town hall, available statewide, airs tomorrow night on 9 News at 7 p.m. Our COVID hospitalization numbers are still heading down. 556 patients are being treated for COVID-19 in Colorado's hospitals at last check. This time last week, it was 674 patients. Our average daily case count is the lowest it's been since October 22nd. Fantastic news. 802 new cases of COVID yesterday. 7-day average is now a bit over 1,200 cases per day. Detected cases of the variants of the virus here in Colorado remain low. So far, the state has identified 13 cases of the variant that originated in the United Kingdom, and the state has found 3 cases of the variant first found in California. We're watching as we come down from the peak of deaths in December. We always look back 2 weeks when we track COVID deaths, since the deaths are reported to the state on a lagging basis. So it always looks like the chart's really dropping off in recent days when we know it's not. We were averaging 21 deaths per day in mid-January. That number's steadily heading down from the peak right before the holidays. So it turns out that taking politics out of political redistricting is not as easy as Colorado voters were told. A few years ago, Amendments Y and Z passed. They created independent commissions to draw new boundaries for congressional seats and for state legislative seats. These districts are supposed to be compact and fairly equal in population, as opposed to districts that kind of snake to and fro in order to favor one political party or another. Those commissions have not even been picked yet, and politics guy Marshall Zellinger has found a problem.
Today, half of the 12 members of the Congressional Redistricting Commission were drawn like it was a bingo hall. This is what voters wanted when they passed Amendments Y and Z, the redrawing of district lines by an independent group, not lawmakers and not judges. You know, the boundaries that dictate who represents you in Congress, that's Amendment Y. Or the boundaries that determine who your state senator is, or the smaller boundaries for state representative. Those two are Amendment Z.
The Census Bureau is experiencing some delays.
A delay in getting census data from the Census Bureau could result in Colorado's new commissions not being able to meet deadlines that voters put in the state constitution when they approved Y and Z. For instance, there's supposed to be public hearings on a draft of a new congressional district map by July 7th and the new state Senate and House district maps by July 21st. Except the Census Bureau is behind and won't get the state the data it needs to start the maps until after those deadlines.
July 31st is the earliest we'll get that data. So no, the commission and staff will not be able to meet that July deadline.
The commissions also have deadlines in September and November to get maps sent to the Colorado Supreme Court for review. Deadlines that are in question, but deadlines that are required by Colorado voters.
We are at least looking at ways to tell the Colorado Supreme Court that, look, we can't get a plan to you in time for you to consider by November 1st. What do you want us to do?
I think the worst case scenario is the Colorado Supreme Court has to hear a case where the situation just wasn't contemplated by the amendment. And so the court itself has to figure out how to fill in those gaps.
Legal analyst Christopher Jackson points out that when voters put new laws in the Constitution and not state statute, there's less flexibility, even in a pandemic.
When you get a deadline that's put into the Constitution, it means the General Assembly doesn't have any power to change it.
In the end, will Colorado's maps be drawn in a way that voters intended when they passed Y and Z?
We hope so. We will do everything we can to get that done.
Okay, so what happens if the deadlines can't really be met? There's actually a last resort deadline in Amendment Y and Z that if the commission hasn't approved a map by a certain date, the commission's staff will submit the third map. Well, what if the commission is so far behind it hasn't created a first map or a second map draft?
That's a question mark, Kyle, and it's possible we could end up in a scenario where there's a lawsuit and judges end up deciding what the district lines look like in exact opposition of what voters wanted when they passed amendments Y and Z.
And of course, Marshall, this is important because your most favorite politicians are impacted by this. Your least favorite politicians are impacted by this because it has the potential to scramble the map, if not the balance of power.
There's going to be an 8th congressional district when it gets confirmed at the end of April that Colorado gets. And so drawing a new map of a new congressional district means you may not live in the congressional district that you do now, or perhaps you may want to run for office, and today you live in one district and tomorrow you won't.
Although in Congress, you don't have to live in your district. That's a fun story for another time, but Marshall knows that. Thank you, Marshall. Hey, you all put together another legendary effort last week in terms of giving, raising money for a nonprofit through your Word of Thanks campaign. You all donated $83,000 for WeCycle. That's the nonprofit in the metro area that provides diapers and baby wipes and such to low-income families. $83,000 for their work. That nonprofit has started doubling the amount of diapers that they give out per visit, per family, and it is directly thanks to your generosity. You have now raised $2.8 million for Colorado's nonprofits since last summer. I'll be back Wednesday with our next idea. People have been putting their names down on multiple lists trying to get a vaccine, just want the shot however they can get it. Our next viewer has an excellent question. Is that bogging down the process? She literally followed in her footsteps.
Nicole would follow me around. Whenever she'd see me, wherever I was going, she'd want to go.
Decades later, they're colleagues. The legacy of Ms. Peaches. Next. Tonight's next question is a two-parter that comes courtesy of Anne and Anne. Two different people, similar names and questions. Anne with no E wants to know if people sign up for multiple lists for the vaccines, then get their shot, do they automatically come off the other lists, or does that clog up appointments for other people? Anne with an E signed up for multiple lists, got her first dose, and she wants to know whether being on those other lists impacts the state's vaccine refusal rate. All right, here we go, Anne's. Anne with no E. You should absolutely remove your name from vaccine waiting lists or appointment lists after you get your shot. If you do that, then your slot can be assigned to somebody else ahead of time rather than it being a no-show when you don't come, because that takes up the time slot, slows down the process. Anne with an E. Being on multiple lists while you wait does not contribute to our state's vaccine refusal rate. Providers need what they refer to as an affirmative refusal from somebody before they enter it into the system. People who cancel appointments or fail to show up for appointments, they don't count as refusals, only if somebody says, I don't want the shot. Throwing away your Rockies gear is not how you Colorado. Just give it away, like the Rockies did with Nolan Arenado. Rockies fan reached out to us over the weekend to inform us she was done with the team, planned to throw all of her gear away. Shirts, pajamas, quilts, blankets, all destined for the trash. Some good stuff you can get money for on eBay there. Come on, don't donate the stuff, especially the cold weather gear. Never ever throw away cold weather gear. And I don't know, the whole getting so worked up over a team that you throw out their gear or burn a jersey or whatever. Is that a thing that people do in Colorado? I don't know. It doesn't seem like the way the state does business. Too much good going on here to get that worked up over sports.
Mostly cloudy today, but very mild in spite of the cloud cover, kind of a conveyor belt extending from Colorado back through California and down to Baja. This whole just belt of clouds is going to shift to the east tomorrow, allowing for more sunshine and an even warmer day. Today we were way above average, close to 60 degrees. There were some 60s on the map in eastern Colorado, but we will, with southwest winds, see numbers go in the low and mid 60s ahead of a Pacific cold front that will bring some mountain snow on Wednesday and maybe, if we're lucky, a little snow to Denver on Thursday. Partly cloudy, calm tonight, our low at 32. Tomorrow, sunshine, a high of 62. We do have a cold front coming in Wednesday night. The day will be nice, but snow showers Wednesday will linger into the drive Thursday morning. A little break Friday, and then more snow showers early Saturday. Saturday, the coldest day of the week with a high of only 33.
You never know when you'll touch a life.
Ms. Peaches has seen the impact of her influence firsthand.
But all these years, somebody who says, I'm going to grow up to be just like you, actually does.
Because now they're co-workers. working together to guide young lives. That's next. Principal in North Glen will tell you there are two people who have inspired her most. Nicole Caldwell Wetzel points to her grandfather, the late Elvin Caldwell Sr. He was Denver's first black city council member. And she says that her second chief inspiration in life is an educator who's now a colleague. Our Byron Reed has the story.
Nicole Caldwell Wetzel is hoping to make things run smoothly.
I try my very, very best
For her students on their first day back for in-person learning.
I always want to make sure that if it doesn't get done perfectly the first time, it will the second or maybe the third.
Caldwell Wetzel has been the principal at the Global Village Academy in North Glen for the past 7 years. It's a career that was partly sparked by a moment of inspiration.
Well, it made me a perfectionist.
Nicole says it was motivation from her second grade assistant principal, Vassa Sellers, better known as Miss Peaches.
Peaches. My mommy gave that to me.
She says it was Miss Peaches who supported her while she wrote an essay that ended up winning a writing contest.
And I wouldn't let her turn that paper in until I felt she and I both agreed that it was to perfection. She would tell me and her parents that someday she was going to grow up to be just like Miss Peaches.
So when Nicole needed help back in 2016,
One wintry day, we had quite a few teachers that were out.
she was looking at a substitute teacher list and recognized a familiar name.
The name Vassa Sellers was on there. And I thought to myself, there's no way that there's more than one Vassa Sellers in this world.
Nicole called her in and says they had an emotional reunion in the school's lobby.
Here she comes out, 6 foot heaven, looks down at me, and tears just hang right on her lower lid.
And sure enough, she came in and we had a wonderful reunion.
I'm your Nicole who used to say I was going to grow up and be just like you.
Miss Peaches was hired on as the school's in-house substitute teacher and a counselor for middle school students for the past 5 years.
Miss Peaches is going to be 80 this year.
Now she's retired and volunteers 5 hours a day as the school's cafeteria supervisor.
To be able to do that just makes my heart swell.
She started the year with us, not afraid of COVID, not afraid of anything.
It's a bond of giving back that these two say they will always share.
To me, she's kind of magical, and I appreciate seeing her every day.
As an inspiration for the students at their school.
You never know when you'll touch a life, but all these years, somebody who says, I'm going to grow up to be just like you, actually does.
For next,
I wish that I could share her with others, but she's not leaving.
I'm Byron Reed.
Love that. She's magical. Your feedback's next. Dennis Martinez writes in tonight to say that my reaction to the vaccine whisperer story, he says, to me came across as diminishing the good deeds of a wonderful young lady, Sarah. Dennis, I hope that nobody took it like that. I think it's wonderful what she's doing. I just think it's pathetic that that's where we are as a state, that people are relying on just one-off kindnesses from strangers in order to get a life-saving vaccine. Karen Hallberg says the convoluted process by which we 70 and older must scrounge and scavenge for a vaccine, age bias at its worst. Probably designed by a 20-year-old who said, they're old. What else do they have to do? Straight fire, Karen.